welcome back to the studio. So tonight what we're going to paint is our friendly seagull here. Just standing on a nice pier on some kind of a lake here with a tire tied on with a rope. I don't know, it's a nice little scene for whatever reason. I kind of liked it. I gave it a shot last night. I was doing some practicing and this is what I came up with. I thought it turned out nice. A little simple but nice. So we're going to try to replicate this. I've got a clean sheet of paper here and I am going to try to draw this. So let me move my paint box to the side, put my picture in the front here, and here we go. Okay, there we go. I think that is all we need. I should have zoomed you in a little bit. There we go. I think that's all we need to get started on this guy. We can go from there. I've got my travel paint kit here. I'm just going to use a couple of brushes. These are Princeton Snap brushes, a number 2 and a number 6 round. Here they are. And let's get going. I'm going to start with a little bit of my Payne's Gray here, and I gotta move my picture right in front of me here so I can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna rotate the picture upside down so I can get to his wing. I'm gonna start by putting a fairly dark amount of gray right in there, and I'm gonna wet my brush, tap it off, come back in and let that blend right out. Okay, I want it to be darker here. There we go. Perhaps that's an easier way to see it. I want it to be darker here and lighter as it goes across this top. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom wing. Nice dark line. I don't want to rinse my brush, get the paint off, most of the water off. Just come back and touch that paint and let it spread right out. We're going to go up and almost touch that dark line just above. And I'm going to blend this a little bit up to the top. There we go. Alright, while I'm waiting for some other colors to come in here, I'm going to take this gamboge yellow and paint a little bit of his beak right there. Now this yellow for his beak is mostly highlight color. We're going to come back and get a little bit of that and do just a bit more, but we'll put on some ochre or something on that on the beak, on the rest of it. But I want that to be on there so when we leave a highlight of it in a little bit, the that yellow, that gamboge, is going to come right on through. Okay, so I'm painting on this black tail feathers here. I'm giving a little blue for the underneath part. I want that to be a bit blue. I want people to see that there's a shadow there. And I'm really using this phthalo blue. I started with my ultramarine and I didn't like that quite so much, so I switched right away to that phthalo blue, and I like this a lot more. Our colors are blending down there. Again, I am going to go to a little bit of our ultramarine blue here, and I'm going to give him a bit of shadow here on the side of his head. Something like that. Just so we know. Part of him's in light, part of him's in shadow. And I just got a text from my wife, so give me 1 second. Okay, we're back. So here we are. We've got our seagull here with his wings mostly painted, a little of his underbelly down here with a little bit of blue on it. Now I'm going to come into part of the palette that you can't quite see. Maybe I'll zoom you out just a little bit. There we go. I'm just going to put together, I'm going to use a little bit of Payne's Gray in this to darken it down a little bit, give it a little bit of weathered look. But this is umber and a little bit of ochre with a little bit of Payne's Gray here. We're making a gray color for, oops, a little too much water there. A little gray color for our board here, or our pylon. I'm going to put this on. I got another text from my wife. I'm not looking at the moment. I want this front side to be a little bit warmer, so I'm going to mix in some yellow ochre as I'm doing it. There we go. And I should, while I'm at it, this side back here, I should mix in some of this ultramarine, give that more of a darker color back there. There we go. And a little bit of gray here. That is too much, so I'm not going to go back to my paint box to get any more paint. I'm going to let that go around. There we go. And before I go away, actually I got a little, still got a little bit too much. Before I go away, I'm going to mix a little bit of this blue, maybe a little bit of gray together. I'm going to put it on this side. There we go. A little runny. But that will end up being a shadow underneath him. I'll give it a nice calm shadow. Alright, so now what we need to do is we need to make a nice gray, a blue gray for our tire. Boy, I'm just getting too much water tonight. Okay, here we go. I'm going to put it on here, maybe a little bit more gray. I'm going to use a little bit of burnt umber on there. There we go. I want to differentiate the colors here. More gray. And you can do this as you go along. Just right on the paper. Add some colors if you need them. Right, I didn't like the color that was going on there, so all I did was grab a little bit of a different color, throw it on, and we're good to go. So I'm going to get some of this almost pure ultramarine right now. There we go. Actually, you know what? That might be cobalt blue instead of ultramarine. And I'm just going to, anyway, I'm just going to touch this a little bit. I want these colors to mix a little bit. There we go. That'll turn out nice. And that will give us a nice blend to our tire as it goes across. I'm going to drop down to my number 2 brush and get a little bit of my yellow ochre here. And I'm going to try this on his beak, which looks like it's dry now. There we go. Just a tab on there. We don't need much. I do want to put, I'm going to mix a little bit of my gamboge in with my yellow ochre. I have noticed that many of these seagulls have kind of a yellowish eye. So I'm going to give him a bit of a yellow eye there. Okay, and my tire looks like it's still a little too wet to put in. I'm sorry, I'm just going to fill it back in with a little bit of my gray here. My blue got a little out of control. We'll just tap in that color. Okay, my wings here, right here, where we used our Payne's Gray, almost pure Payne's Gray, have dried a lot lighter. Payne's Gray does that. It gets very light. So I want to come back in and I want to put just a little bit of color back on top of that. It's easiest for me if I flip everything over, get my little bit of Payne's Gray here. And I'm looking at the picture and I've got it's darker on his wing right up here, and then it thins out everywhere else. So I'm just gonna get it darker there, and I'm gonna give a bit of a dark line back here on the top, just to make it look like he's got a little color on the back side of him. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing with his bottom wing. And drop it on there. There we go. And I'm going to let it come out right up almost to our other one. There we go. We've done that. It looks good. If you see me doing this, how I'm kind of pushing and touching and rubbing it, I'm trying to generate a little bit of texture in there. So it looks almost like you can see the feathers. I'm going to give just a little bit of an indication of a little bit more dark here on the back side of his head. There we go. I think that's all I want. It's kind of subtle, but you'll notice it in the end. Alright, we've got a few legs to do here, I think. And we can do those now. Oh, I got too much water on there. This is our yellow ochre mix. I need to strengthen that just a little bit. There we go. You know, his feet on this page are pretty small. We don't need a whole lot of detail on there. We're just going to put something on there and call it good. Alright, and now it looks like everything is dry, just enough we can make our rope color. I'm going to use umber and yellow ochre for that. I'm going to put it in a couple of different stages. There's one. Each time I do this, I'm going to alter my color just a little bit. There we go. That looks good for the one in the front. One in the back, I want to be just a bit different color. There it is. Might be a little too dark, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to put a little umber in it now. I'm sorry, a little gamboge in it. I'm just making the knot back there. And then this is a pretty small line here, but I want to put in, maybe I'll put in a bit of this burnt umber, a little bit of the brown color. I want to give this a little shadow or a little definition, but I don't want to give it too much. So I'm going to use my rigger, and I'm just going to make a few touches right along the bottom of this. I might have done it just a little too soon. That's okay. We're not going to worry about it. When it dries, it'll look fine. And on this other rope, just where the bottoms of them are. And that will help to give it just a little bit of roundness as we do that. Now it's kind of the fun part. We get to mix up some water. The water on our picture here has kind of got a green tint to it. Where's it at on the screen? There we go. It's kind of got a green tint to it. I think that looks a little dingy water. We'll put a little bit of green tint to it, but I like this. This is a mix of of phthalo blue and Payne's Gray. And I think that turns out pretty nice for a watercolor. A watercolor of watercolor. I think that's right. Watercolor of watercolor. Alright, well, we'll work with it anyways and figure out what it is. So I'm going to lay in some paint, and I'm going to kind of do it in a specific way. And that way is, I'm going to make the water darker down at the bottom of the painting and lighter as we go up. So what I want to do is give the indication that the water, as it's going away from us, is getting a bit lighter and a bit lighter. Right? I want the darkest water we have to be right down here. Here I've mixed in some green down here. So I think that looks pretty nice. So I've been making a little pool of paint over here, just mixing my phthalo blue with a little Payne's gray, and as I move back, I did also mix in a little bit of Viridian here, but as I move back, I want to thin this out and thin this out more and more and more. So let me move that back off, and we're going to get something that, as we go back to the top of our painting up here, and yes, I realize it's upside down at the moment, so the top is the bottom. But as we move to the top, we still have some lines in here, some little bit of detail, but it's getting lighter and lighter. So I'm going to come right in behind our seagull here. Now is when we can define really the shape of his head and the shape of his beak. We could do it before by drawing in pencil, but regardless of where the pencil line is, at this point our paint line is going to overtake that, and we could really move that line around if we needed to. So I'm just continuing to mix our colors in a pretty loose mix, and I'm putting on the paint with these straight lines in the background, and they'll dry, and the parallel lines going like this on your page will actually add a little bit of depth to what you're painting. Okay, you don't want to have a painting that's all parallel lines probably, but a few here and there are really going to make things look like they're going back further and further and further. You see, I need to get underneath our bird here, and this is another place where if I painted outside the lines initially on our bird, I could come back with this darker color and go right over top of that lighter bit and redefine that line. That's why so many people like to paint watercolors light to dark, so that in the end, if they need to, they can change anything along the way. Each coat you put on gets a little bit darker and a little bit darker and a little bit darker, and pretty soon, if you've made a mistake or want to fess up to having made a mistake at the beginning of the painting, it's been well and truly covered up time and time again by the time you ever get to the end of the painting. There we go. Here we go. What we've done is we've made this nice and dark in the background. It looks a bit of a mess over here right now and nice and smooth over here, but this will smooth out. I believe it will smooth out as it dries and the paint flows outward. That will smooth out a little bit. But by making this darker, in fact, we could make it even a little bit darker right around our subject. We need to let that flow out a little bit. By making it darker right around our subject, we've drawn everybody's eye right to it, and we've made the picture pop out just right out of the page like that. So here we go. I'm going to darken this side a little bit too. Just something like that. And because I made this just wet enough on this side, I think we can get away with this. There we go. A little bit of darkness out here. And I think we're good. All we need to do is wait for this one to dry, and we've got a seagull. I'm trying to think what we're painted here. I don't know. For some reason, I couldn't say it. Actually, I want to go in and darken his beak just ever so slightly again. I think that looks a little better. Just there we go. This is the shadow side of his beak, and it needs to be just a little bit more. And one last thing, I am going to cheat a little bit and use a Micron pen. What do I have? Is this the one? This one will work perfectly. So my Micron pen, and I am going to draw in his pupil. There we go. Instead of trying to do that with a paint, just going to draw it in. So let me pause you for a moment. I'm going to draw this. I'm going to dry this. So I'll be right back. Okay, so here we are back. It's all dry. I'm ready to sign it. There are a couple of things. There we go. There are a couple of things. I think the water got a little bit busy for me, and the shading on his head makes it a little bit busy. Let me zoom in just a little bit for you. There we go. So we started with what I thought was a pretty simple picture like this, and it kind of got a little bit busy for us. I like the post, I like the tire, I love the way they stand out against the background here, the dark. I like our seagull. I don't love our seagull, but I definitely think I should have gone even lighter, made it even less busy back there with the water. But that's it. That's how it goes sometimes. You live and you learn. I still like it. I hope you guys like it. I hope you like the video. I hope you like painting with me. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to my channel. I would love to see you guys back here painting with me again, and we'll do more projects like this. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.